Hello and welcome to another Hedgehog Makes video. My name is Austin, aka Zombie Hedgehog, and today we're going to be putting together the Deposition Audio FDM4s. So these are 3D printed speakers that you can 3D print yourself and build. The kit comes with everything you need besides the printed parts, as well as you will need some tools. So I'll be going over all that today, what you need to buy and what you can expect from the build. So Deposition Sound has made 3 speakers so far. The FDM5s, which I'm using over here as my main computer monitors. I've also heard the Geos, FDM Geos. Those have more of a geometric design and have a slightly different sound signature. And they finally released the 4s, a slightly smaller version. They look phenomenal. They're really cool and they're pretty small. So perfect for a desk, perfect for a kind of closer TV setup most likely. But I've very briefly listened to this and it sounds great. So I'm excited to build this. If you want to check out more information about Deposition and maybe buy one of these kits, I have a link in the video description. So I am streaming this live on Twitch. Welcome on in, Sophie. Thank you for the raid. If you want to catch these streams live, there is a link for my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/zombiehedgehog, down below. Don't miss them out. Welcome on in. How was your stream today? We're about to build some speakers, 3D printed speakers. So let's go over the printed parts first, and then we'll go over the kit. This is the main body, and you can see something special about these speakers. It has sort of a transmission line-esque port. So the port where the air escapes to create bass. I'm not an expert in sound. You can correct me in the comments below, but the channel for it starts here, enters here, goes all the way around into here, loops down, goes under, and then up and out. So the port is super long, and these things pack a punch. Very, very cool, cool design. And you can see in the back there, that's where the custom PCB is going to mount. So more on that in a minute. We have the front. The front is where the speakers will attach. There's also the accent ring and the waveguide for the tweeter. All of these you can print in whatever colors you want. I have printed mine out in Polymaker PLA. This is their wine red PLA and cold white. I thought that would be a good color to use and maybe something different. These are 3D printed speakers. You can use any color you want. Now PETG is generally recommended for these, but I decided to try out PLA and I'll let you know how that goes. I've heard a little bit of the one I built and it sounded pretty good, so I'm excited. So I think that's all you need for printed parts. Is that it? I think so. There's not much to print. They're just big prints. So you need 2 of each for all of these. You do not need to mirror this right here because they've included a custom designed crossover board. So this right here splits the audio input into your high pass and low pass filters. So that will be for the tweeter and the main woofer. It's awesome. I love this PCB. I am a electrical engineer and I designed some PCBs. So it's fun seeing cool shaped, PCBs. And this has a pretty cool trick up the sleeve. Not only does it use audiophile grade components, but you see this plus and minus in the center? You want to know how you input your amplifier to this board? On the back of this speaker, there's 2 holes. So your 5-way binding posts are actually going to screw up through there and then through the holes here, and you screw it down. It's pretty fantastic. And to assist with screwing in the little nuts you need, I've designed a tool. So this is a very simple little nut driver for the 7mm nuts. I even was able to get their logo multicolor printed. I used my Bamboo A1 Mini for these. So I'll have two versions of these available. We got the small driver, pretty much all you need for this design, and the larger driver, which it'll be slightly easier to reach in. So I'll try out both of these, see which one works well, but those are my quick design and on shape, and those will be linked in the video description to try out. If you're building one of these, I would strongly recommend it because you don't have much space to work inside of here. Other tools you'll need, a set of pliers of some sort. If you have strippers or pliers, those will probably work too, but I have my pliers. You will need some type of stripper for the audio cable. You will need some type of crimper. There are insulated crimps they'll have to use. I'm using this one right here, which is actually a reversible one I picked up at Home Depot, and this has been perfect for crimping insulated connectors. And it also does have a strippers built in. In fact, I might have to use this one because these ones are for my smaller gauge wires. Also, a couple of screwdrivers. So we have a little mini driver. These are used for the these connectors right here, these terminals, and then a 2mm driver to attach the front speaker. I'm also using 3D gloop. Now, depending on what material you print your speakers out of, you'll want to use a different gloop. For mine, I'm using PLA gloop because this is PLA. If you are printing your speakers in PETG, you'll want to use their PET gloop. I use that for my other speakers and it worked out great. And if you're printing in ABS, you'll want to use, or ASA, ABS or ASA, you'll use their ABS gloop. Pretty cool. So I'll show you how to use that. It's very good stuff and it's perfect for a speaker like this. In the kit, we have some accessories that you'll need. Let's just dump this bag out. These are the binding posts. These are 5-way binding posts. Those will thread through the back and hold the board in place. We have some heat inserts. Oh, we also need a soldering iron. So I have a little pine sill soldering iron that I'll show you how to use. But these are heat inserts. You only need 4. That holds the main speaker in, the woofer. We have some screws for that. We have 2 different types of crimps for the connectors. They actually give you some spares, which is nice in case you mess up. Rubber feet, or not rubber, grippy feet. These are actually kind of nice. You also get stuffing. This is used to put inside of the cabinet. It helps out the sound characteristics. So that'll go inside, don't forget that. In this tiny little box, we have the tweeter. So be very careful, don't poke the tweeter. But here it is, right here. This is a Dayton Audio ND series 5/8 neodymium dome tweeter. And to go with that, we have another Dayton Audio 4-inch paper cone mid-bass woofer, 8 ohms. So there's the main driver. Pretty big magnet on there. It's heavy, it's a hefty speaker. So this will give you very good low-end performance for the size. At least that's my impression so far. Is there an adhesive when you mix PLA PETG prints together? Yes, so 3D gloop actually works together. So if you have a PLA part and a PET part, or PETG part, you put PLA gloop on the PLA, you put PET gloop on the PETG, and you connect them together. They've actually shown at different events, the Rep Rap festivals, where you can't break the bond between these two things. It's like, it's pretty much permanent. So any material works great. Hopefully they come up with other types like TPU eventually. That would be kind of fun. I think they might be in the works. I don't know. Anyway, we're here to focus on the FDM4s. So where do we begin? This is the first ever production kit. So I am building this with limited instructions, kind of based off of the knowledge of that speaker, but there will be a full build guide available on their site, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I do have a pre-release assembly guide, and it's actually very good for a pre-release. So there might be some stuff missing, just a fair warning, but let's go over that briefly, and then we will start our build. So, let me get this a little bit bigger. Here are the parts. Once again, we have the cabinet, the front baffle, woofer accent / beauty ring, and a wave guide. So you can print these in whatever color you want. Go crazy. And then these are all the parts that it comes with. There's also some wire that I missed out on. So the first thing you do is insert some heat inserts on the front baffle. This will be used to attach the main speaker. You can use a standard soldering iron for this. You don't need anything special. Just heat it up to your normal soldering temps and then press in the heat insert. There are foam feet that stick onto the bottom here. So the first thing you'll do is screw the binding post onto the back. Now this is a very tight connection because one, they want it to be air sealed once it's done, and two, this is supporting the PCB, so it's nice and stiff. So you can assemble it with different methods. You can use an Allen wrench like this, or I'll be using pliers. Any variety of assembly to get those in will help. You have black on one side and red on that other side. Be very, very attentive to which direction these go in because you can't change the polarity because they screw directly into the PCB. And that's what they look like on the inside. They kind of poke through. You'll then need to do some stripping and crimping. So you want to strip a little bit off, just about this much. I think like 1 centimeter. Is that about right? Just a little bit. Once you do one, you'll figure out how much it takes. And then crimp the various connectors on. So you'll need one cable where one side is the blue connectors and the other cable will have the red connectors. And then on the other side of both of them is just bare stripped wire, and that'll go into the terminal blocks. So I'll show you that when I go to assemble it. And there is a link to the main tools that you might want to get on their website. I'll also have a link to some of the tools that I've used in the description. These red crimp connectors are actually heat shrink, which is kind of cool. What you do is you crimp them on and then you heat shrink it, and it holds together really well and provides a little bit of an isolation for the main connector here. So once you have these on, you'll have the LF terminal connected to the red, the larger crimped cable. You have to pay attention. The red little marking on the one wire will plug into the plus side, and the bare plain connector will go into the minus side. Same thing for the blue connector for the tweeter. That'll go in the high pass filter, the HF, red into the plus, and then not red into the minus. So pay attention to that. So that's what it should look like here. And this step right here is why I designed a tool. So you can use a 7mm socket, or you can just print off this little tool. It's a fairly quick print, takes about an hour, and you don't have to print it in multicolor. I just add that option. I'll have a version that's multicolor and then just single color. Because why wouldn't you want to print a cool multicolor version? So you'll screw on the nuts. I'll show you how to do that, and that will be nice and secured. You want to make sure that these are screwed in first because you'll have a hard time accessing it after. Next, you will install the padding or the stuffing inside. That just gets shoved all the way in just to eliminate the dead space. I think that prevents some sound issues with the speaker. The waveguide, this is very important. This has to kind of be perfectly fit. So if it is too big, like you cannot get it in, you'll have to maybe shrink it a little bit and reprint it. If it's too small, you'll have to reprint it. But I used my custom tuned profile that's available on my Patreon for bamboo, and everything worked out fine using a 0.4 nozzle and PLA. So if you're using any other combination of materials, nozzle sizes, printers, your mileage may vary. Just note that you might have to do some tuning for this specific part. So you actually stick the tweeter in, you press the tweeter in, it's a very stiff fit. And then it'll look like that. And then you have to test fit. Yeah, it wants you to test fit the guide to make sure that it sits in there. But you will be using TPU. So don't press this in if it's super stiff. Don't press this in fully on this step. Wait until the next step. So they're having you do this. This is up to you. I personally would recommend testing your speaker first. So you can glue it now and it should be fine because you can still access pretty much everything with the front on. That's up to you. We'll probably go this route, but you can also get it assembled before you glue it and then kind of hold it together, make sure that the audio works, that it sounds fine, and then glue it. That's up to you. This way might be slightly easier because you don't have a big woofer in the way. So once it's glued, okay, so for glue, they're using CA glue, but I'm gonna strongly recommend 3D Gloop, which they do recommend as well. It's just a better bond in my experience, and it's nice and easy to work with. So once you get that glued up, you're going to attach the cables, making sure to pay attention to the red marking. There's a very faint red marking on one side of the tweeter. Be be aware of which side that's on and plug it into the red part of the wire. You'll press that in. If you've already pressed it in, that's fine. Just connect the cables in the back of it. For the waveguide, there's a little bit of TPU. Be very make sure that this is everything's correct before you go to install this, because this is kind of a permanent fit. I don't know if it's just a very tight fit, and it's probably not going to come back out pretty much ever. So what I did is there's a seam on one side right here going down. I put my seam on the bottom, kind of centered. So I was very aware of where I put the seam. And if you don't, that's fine. But you'll put a bit of TPU in here as a gasket, and it holds it in place very well. If yours sticks out like this, you'll want to make sure that it's flush. They're recommending you put it onto something hard and press it in. Mine just snugly fit as is. Next, you have the main woofer. So mine did come with a little bit of foam. I put the foam down first, and then the speaker. I don't know if it's completely necessary, but I had it, so might as well use it, and it worked out fine. You'll plug in the speakers. There's a plus side and a minus side. I think the plus side is the larger terminal. but we'll see once I assemble it. And then you screw it on using these 4 included screws into the heat sets that you put in earlier. If you forgot the heat sets, you can just put them in now. And then the beauty ring, you'll want to line it up. It has 4 slots. I can probably, yeah, there you can kind of see it. It has 4 empty slots, and those go over the screw holes. So you kind of have to smush it in place, and then eventually it'll just pop in. And then you're done. Before you pop in the beauty ring, I would test out the speaker, because if you have to take it apart for any reason, this is again kind of a permanent connection. And once you're at this point, if you have to get inside, you're gonna be prying off this front right here. So I would make sure that it works before you install the beauty ring. So that way you can still access stuff on the inside here. And that's it, you have a speaker. So let's do it. All right, where do I start? Well, I guess we have to start with the screw terminals. So these for me, these were pretty tight. And again, that's done on purpose. But this is the first kind of, this is the first layer, so it prints down on here. So if you want, you can test print just like the first, I don't know, a little bit of this thing, probably up to around here. Stop it, take it off. Of course, you're wasting filament because you're test printing it, but you want to make sure that you can actually screw in the hole. If you're very limited on how much filament you can use and you're trying to tune this so you can use like exactly 2 spools, you can always drill this out if it's too tight. But what I did was I took the terminals, I unscrewed the back here. So you'll have a little nut, save that nut. Oh, okay. Unscrew it, unscrew it, unscrew it. Save that. This connector right here is not needed because we're screwing directly into the PCB, and the little block washer I didn't use as well. And on this binding post, there's an extra little bit of plastic. There's like 2 versions of the plastic. You'll want to take out the one that's shaped like a T, and then put in the little just disc like that. So that way the backside is flush, just like that. So we'll do that for both of the binding posts. All right, so that's off. There we go. So according to the guide, I'm looking at the guide over here, we're gonna do this side as black and this side is red, and that's very important. If you wanted to just do a sanity check, line up the PCB. It's gonna look like this, and then look. So this side would be red because it has the plus, and this side is black. So if you're looking at it from the back, the right side is red, and we'll start with that. So make sure I have my little beauty ring on here. I don't think it's necessary, but might as well add it. And start screwing it in. Now my other one was a fairly tight fit, so I had to work at it a little bit to install. I kind of put some force down onto it and screwed it in to get it started. There we go. I think that is starting to get in. I think these holes can probably be increased a little bit. If you have any issues with this, like I said, you can always use a drill and make it slightly bigger, or just take your time and eventually it'll go in. So there's a couple of ways of screwing this in. You can use an Allen key, or what I'll probably do is use some pliers. So I took my pliers and I just spun it around and around and around until it went in. I still have to screw this in some more, but take your time with this. You want to make sure that this is in very securely. You could probably use actually, that'll be another good tool to design, a little driver for this. Maybe like a double-sided version of this where it has both different ones. But I held this in place and I twisted the cabinet, and I actually used this as a grip. So I held this in place and I twisted the cabinet, and that actually works really well. If it's too tight, you can use a pair of pliers to hold it like this. Increase the size a little. Hold it like this as you twist it. Let's see, yeah, like this. And there you go. It looks ridiculous, but it actually works out well. Get a lot of leverage doing it this way. And it's a nice long screw going through here. There's probably ways of making this a little bit easier, but this works. Audio PCBs always amaze me with their low density and wide traces. So different from PCBs we design at work. Yeah, audio PCBs need to be very, very specific. And these guys right here, I don't think they're really space optimized, but the size of the traces, the amount of current that you can push through speakers are insane. So you need really big, beefy traces. All right, that's one of them. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other. Making sure I have that little plastic ring. Over here, little plastic ring. Oh, dear, dropping everything. The cool thing about this design, or at least like the installation of it, is if you need to make a tool, like this nut driver for whatever reason, you could just design it yourself, or someone else can design it and you can print it. That's the cool thing about 3D printing, and why I'm excited for more cool 3D printing projects like these speakers exist. You can make so many things with 3D printing, stuff that you can't make or is very, very, very difficult to make with traditional manufacturing. For example, the port on here is super complicated, and essentially don't quote me on this, but I think it's impossible to injection mold this design because of the transmission line speakers. Within one solid chassis, I think it's impossible. So either impossible or very difficult. So utilizing 3D printing, you can make a very, very, very custom designed speaker, and that unlocks a lot. New designs, better designs, ways that we haven't thought about making speakers before. So I think these are going to be very popular. And if you want to pick one of these up, they are available as a kit currently. I think I never screwed this in. I don't know if they're going to be selling fully built and assembled versions, but keep an eye out on their website for that. You should be able to do something, or do amazing ports of 3D printing. Yeah, like these are amazing. I was feeling air, like a lot of air moved with this design, and that's a good sign. Very, very clean bass. It's very impressive with a design like this. Use a piece of rag to protect the banana plug. Yeah, you can. These are clear and they're in the back of the speaker, so I'm not too concerned. In fact, I would probably design a custom little knob to hold these in place. That'd be the next little 3D printable tool. If I do design it, it will be available down below. If I don't, then you can. It's fun to make tools. All right, get this in nice and tight and perfect. So that's what it looks like right there. They do stick out just in the back. Awesome. And it doesn't really matter if you scratch up the front face of here. I mean, it sort of matters, but this is not the front, this is the front. So you're okay to like put this down like this to work on it. I do recommend doing this on a mouse pad or some type of soft surface, just because it's easier to work on. So that is step number 1. Step number 0 was actually to put in some heat inserts. So heat inserts are not that tricky. They are a little bit weird if you've never done them. But I'll show you the process of putting in a heat insert using a soldering iron. So heat inserts look like this right here. And they are designed to go into plastic. They melt into plastic and hold really well. So there's a small side, a really skinny side, and a slightly fatter side. So you take the skinny side and you put it in the hole. It'll kind of drop into place and sit there. If you tried to put the fat side on, it wouldn't go into the hole. It would just kind of fall out, fall out. So you put the skinny side in the hole, it'll drop in place like that. Put all 4 of those inserts in. They might include an extra or 2. You don't need that, you just need the 4. Then you take your soldering iron. I'm gonna heat mine up using a pine sol. I think that's what this is. Just a little USB soldering iron. Takes like 5 seconds to heat up. It's kind of nice. But if you have a standard traditional soldering iron, you'll want to use one with a kind of fine tip on it. And once your iron is at temperature, you will carefully just put it on top of the heat insert and wait. Don't put a lot of weight onto it, but just wait, and it'll slowly work its way into the plastic. Put a little bit of pressure, not much. And you want to push it nice and straight. And once it's just below the surface, just right under the surface, you'll stop. It's better to be slightly under than over because you'll have a nice flush finish. And be careful because these are very hot. You just melted it with an extremely hot soldering iron. So we're going to repeat that process 4 times. This one is just under the surface here. This one is under here and here. And now would be a good time to mention that Polymaker did supply the filament for this project and generally support the channel. I am a Polymaker first partner and I use their materials a ton for different projects like this. So I'm super excited to be using their PLA for speakers. I never thought that would even be possible, printing your own speakers, but here we go. Now that we have the heat inserts on, we're gonna let them sit for at least a minute to let them cool down. You don't want to immediately put a heat insert in and a screw into it. It might still be hot and then it'll just kind of melt, but that is perfect right here. So the next step is the actual, the wires. So for the wires, you get 2. They're equal lengths on the FDM4s. And you'll want to strip all sides of them. So to strip these wires, they come attached like this. You want to break them apart. You can either use your fingers or you can grab your pliers and kind of pull them apart. But you'll want to pull them apart around 1 inch or so. Keep them together, but give yourself enough space to strip them. And then take your wires. I think these are probably 16 gauge. So these are my larger strippers. I want to go to the 16. And you strip them at an angle. So you hold your stripper at a 45-degree angle, press down, and then go back and forth a few times, and then pull it apart, just like so. There's many ways, many techniques to strip, but this is just one that generally works. So this is about the amount which you want to strip them. Hard to put a quantifiable number on there, but about 1 centimeter or so. So repeat that process on all sides of all of these things. Stripping them about the same amount. If you mess up, it's okay, because they give you extra length. You don't have to worry about getting them perfect. But, try your best. All right, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I do lots of various things, including building 3D printers, modifying 3D printers, unboxing 3D printers, and now some 3D printed projects. In the future, we'll have some more technical information here, including hardware reviews and comparisons. If you're wondering about, A/B comparisons between different things 3D printing related, this will be the place. But I like to make 3D printed projects to show off 3D printing and what it can do. So now that we have these all stripped about the same, we're going to use the included crimping or crimp connectors. And we only need 2 reds and 2 blues. If you're making both of your speakers at the same time, you can double up each one of these processes. But I'm going to do one at a time just to make sure that you understand the full instructions. And if you make a mistake, you only make it once. So pick one of these. We'll start with the red and one of these wires. And we're going to stick them in so the wire is, you want to twist the cable a little bit to make sure there's no loose strands, and pull it apart a little bit more. And I kind of like to twist these in clockwise as I try to press them in. This one's actually a little bit of a struggle, but eventually it should go in the hole. It's a hole in the middle of here. There we go. So you want to press that in all the way, just like that. And then there are a ton of different types of crimpers. This is the one that I picked up. It has this little flat, oh, that's the crimper side, or the stripper side. Has a little flat section here that you use for this right here. So it goes in just like this, this little groove. Make sure that you're parallel to the end, and then just crimp, just squeeze it. And it's best to do a couple of these. So I like to do one and then move it over a little bit, then do another. Give it a little bit of force. And there you go. You are connected. Awesome. Disc105, thank you for the raid over on Twitch. How was your stream today? Do the same thing for the other one here. They have a slightly different recommended crimper. It's a different style, and that will work perfectly fine as well. But use what you have. In fact, you could probably, I'm not recommending this, but you can probably get away with just using some more traditional pliers for this. Just make sure that the connection is very solid, no matter how you do it. So I'm going to do this other one right here. Make sure it's parallel. Crimping it once, kind of towards the top, and then again towards the back, just like that. And that is on great. Perfect. Do a little bit more, just make sure. So these ones are special. They're actually heat shrink. You don't technically need to heat shrink them, but I'm going to because I have a little gun here for that. You can use a lighter, that does work, but I'm gonna just use a heat gun. We had an awesome stream. Awesome. Yes, we are recording live on, well, not onto, but for YouTube. This will be posted on after. Kind of like a working VOD. I make these occasionally just to document my process so others can see. So I'm just going to heat shrink this, let it get nice and hot, move it around. And as it starts to melt, you just kind of twist it. So. They're not the highest power of irons, and these do take a lot of heat, so you can try a regular lighter or something you have. Just make sure it's all nice and melted. You'll see it's slowly shrinking. That's kind of how heat shrink works. That does hold it on really well. And it gives you that extra bit of protection for the connector. So that's what they look like. There is one heat shrunk, and then there is one not. So we're gonna do the same process for this one right here. Thank you, Magcat, for the gifted sub to Papa Bear. Very appreciated. If anyone's watching on Twitch and would like to subscribe, Twitch Turbo is a free way to do so. You can link your Amazon Prime account and subscribe for free for an ad-free viewing experience, and you do support the channel. To get projects like this. So if you like this type of project, I do have a Patreon where not only do I have custom print profiles for various 3D printers and offer support, you can just support me, and that's very appreciated. So getting this nice and heat shrunk down. I think it changes color a little bit, so you can kind of see if you already shrunk it. And then that's good. So I'll put this aside and let them cool down for a second. While those cool down, let's work on the blue connector. Mr. Wizix, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 6 months. Thank you so much. And thank you guys to the hype train over on Twitch. Some hype for the Deposition speakers. And we got the Mac and Josh. Thank you for the raid. How was your stream? So you have Karen Chow Designs coming in as well. So for these ones, they're very small and a lot simpler. You just kind of, again, make it parallel. Oops, so I use the right tool here. Get the end parallel, the flat side parallel to the jaw, and crimp. I'm going to do 2 crimps just to be safe. If you have ratcheting crimpers, those will work great as well. Just like that. Not going to be pretty, but it'll work fine. Thank you, Karen, for the 100 bits. And Chris, thank you for the Prime sub. You'd be surprised how many people have an Amazon account and don't use their Prime sub, or it's already linked and then they just forget. So use it somewhere, use it here, use it elsewhere, just make sure to use it. Well, there's that crimped right there. This will be for the tweeter. And that cable is done. We've already set up the other end here for the terminal. Yeah, that's why I remind people, because everyone forgets about the Twitch Prime subs. If you haven't linked your Amazon account yet, it's pretty easy to do so over on Twitch. If you're lurking here, you don't have an account, make one. Say hello. Let me know where you're coming from, how you found the channel. All right. Once these have cooled down a little bit, you'll want to cut off the tip of it. So you'll need to cut off essentially right up flush to the metal part. And that allows you to actually plug this in. So you take a little bit off. The instructions will show you how much you can take off, but that's what they look like once you've snipped the end. Armor Turtle, thank you for the converting a Prime sub to a Tier 1 sub. Very cool, thank you. You have no idea how you found my channel. You were probably on someone like Nero or Steve Build or Modbot. I think it came from one of them. One of the pro YouTuber 3D printer streamers. All right, that's done. Now we are going to attach these to our PCB. So you have two cables. The blue cable is for the tweeter and connects to the high pass filter. High pass meaning it only passes high frequency audio, perfect for the tweeter. And the red connector, the larger connector, is for the large woofer, this guy, and connects into the low pass filter. So be very, very aware of which port you're plugging into. But we'll need to start by taking your little mini screwdriver and unscrewing these all the way. All four of these terminals. I will say after building the FDM5s, the process of building this, I don't know if it's because I've already built one, but it seems pretty straightforward as long as you follow the instructions well. And if you're referencing this as a guide, I would also follow along with the official guide too, because I might be doing something slightly different than they recommend, or they might change a part. So check their instructions first. All right, I have the red. So I'm finding the red strip on one side of this cable. I'm gonna twist the end. It's very important to twist the end of these stranded cables to make sure that there's no little strands poking out. And I'm gonna put that into the red side of the port here. And I'm gonna take the other non-red side of the cable and put into the negative. You want to press it in, make sure that there is no visible wire, but you also want to make sure that your insulation is not really deep into the connector. The amount I stripped was perfect, so I'm going to kind of hold it in place and screw down one of these, nice and snug, but not over tightening it. And I'm going to plug the other one in. So there we go. This is about what it should look like right here. And we do the same thing for the tweeter. So the red, it goes on the outside on this design, and the black goes in the middle. Probably because the two negatives are tied together. Just a guess. So same process, get this in, screw it in, and you're good. Give it a little tug, make sure it's in there securely. If it comes right out, then you haven't installed it correctly. So a nice gentle tug, make sure it's correct. So that is it for the screwdriver. Thank you guys for the hype train over on Twitch. Very appreciated, always is. And now we get to the exciting part. We are going to insert the PCB into the speaker. So you'll see that there's now two little screws poking up there because you screwed that in at the beginning. And you are going to pretty much just take this PCB, be a little bit gentle, try to drop it down straight. Don't drop it, but gently lower it in. You can grab one of the coils and drop it in and slide it onto the little standoffs. So it should be flush against the back. I don't know if you can really see that, but it should be all the way to the bottom. You can't press it anymore, and you should have plenty of the thread poking up. This next part is my step. So they're telling you to pretty much take one of these screws from earlier and screw it on. But I had an issue that it was kind of tight to work in here. So I developed a tool. I have two different sizes. There's the little one that prints fast, and it's a nut driver. So you would stick your nut inside of it, flush, and then you can then put it onto the thread and then start screwing it. It's a little mini screwdriver. But I've made a longer one because I used the short version to build my first one. It was a little bit too short for me, so I made the longer one. So what I'm doing, if you can see, is I'm taking the nut and pressing it in like that. And I'm gonna use my screwdriver to press it in a little bit more. I've tapered it, so the nut shouldn't fall out. So kind of press that in. The tolerance is set for PLA. You might have to scale this if you're using different material, but you would take this driver here with the nut in it and just put it straight onto one of those posts and start screwing it in. So the long version is perfect for this speaker because I can just screw it in. It's quite the long screw. And then once you get to the end, just give it a nice snug turn. Perfect. Look at that. I'll repeat the process for the other one. Actually, I'll use the mini one to show you how that one works. So that one works the same way. You take this, it's tapered, so you press it in a little bit, holds it in snug, and then press it on and screw it in. Actually, the middle one's easier. You can use the small one, but I'm just pretty much just screwing that on. Screws in quite a bit. So let me know in the comments, was that a cool tool to make? Did you print it? Did it make your life easier when you built this? Hopefully so. So nice and snug. You're not gonna break, you might break the tool, but you're not gonna break this with the 3D printed driver. So you wanna make sure that's very snug because that is your connection to the outside, your amplifier, okay? So now that that's on, let me check the next step. Next step is the stuffing. So this is the stuffing. What I've done is I take it out of the packaging and kind of pull it apart a bit, give it some more volume. So just kind of stretch it a little bit like that, pull it apart, and then stuff it in. Just like that. And that should fill up most of the volume, and that'll be perfect. Great, that's all you need to do. That'll kind of trap the high frequency noises and only let the lower bass frequencies go through, and that'll travel through the port. That's what I know to the best of my knowledge, but I am just an electrical engineer. I don't know much about speaker design. Now we get to play around with the waveguide or the tweeter. So I'm just going to go ahead and press this in now. I'm going to angle my connectors so they're facing down. So the connectors are facing down, and by down I mean towards the large opening. So I'm going to get that in. Doesn't matter if it's perfectly lined up because it's just a tweeter, it's circular. Yeah, this is not lined up at all. That's okay. Doesn't matter. You can twist it around. Be very careful. You see this little dome right here? Don't press that. If you press it in, you'll probably break it. So if you're gonna press on this outside ring. That's just plastic. Just be careful. not to slip. This should be a tight fit. So I had to use a little bit of force to get this in, pressing evenly around the outsides, and it'll look something like that. It'll look like you can go in more, but there's a little bit of lip here that prevents it, and that's perfect. It'll stick out just like that. And then for the ring, right here, you can do a quick test fit. Don't press it in all the way, but just make sure that it goes in like this. Make sure you can press it in and that it feels kind of, you know, not super, super loose, but not, you know, not too snug where you can't press it in. So right here, this is going to be perfect. They give you, in the packaging, a little bit of TPU. TPU is stretchy. It's a stretchy filament. And you will wrap that around the tweeter. So you take this and put this in this little groove, just like that. And it's not quite long enough, so there'll be a little bit of a gap there. And what I've done is, you can see, maybe on camera, but there's a little bit of a seam here. This is where my seam is. It's a line seam going down this side. And I faced mine down. So line this up so the seam is perfectly downward. Doesn't matter where the gasket is, where the TPU ends. So with this, I kind of worked my way around and then pressed the TPU into place. And it's not going to be easy. Should be a little bit firm to press it in. But once it's in, just slowly work your way. I think they might have a method, but I went top to bottom, outside, top, bottom, outside. And then to slowly press this into place. And it should be perfectly flush with the outside here when you're done. Pretty cool. Next, they want you to glue it, so I will do that. And I will be using Gloop, 3D Gloop. So I'll leave a link in the description. If you're using PETG, you'll use the PET Gloop. But I'm using PLA. So what I like to do is grab a little bit of a towel or something in case something spills. Be careful, you don't want to really get this on your skin, so use gloves if you are not familiar with using Gloop. But I'm going to just, I'm going to wrap these cables around where the port is, just to kind of hold it in place. And then take my brush, connect the tweeters before gluing. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So I already snapped the tweeter in, so it'll be much easier to put this in now. So I have to, let's see, the red ring for the the red line for the tweeter is it's very hard to see, but on here, this side. Yeah, you can test it before gluing it. That's probably recommended. What do you think? Should we test it first? Make sure it all works fine? This is kind of hard to press on. It should be. You don't want it coming out after the fact. Go. There. So that is connected in. I'll leave the woofer for after. You want to test it. Okay, we can do that. So to test it, I'm going to just plug in the woofer. So I'm going to take my cable, plug it in. At this point, if you glued it, You can still access a fair bit of stuff in here. It's just a little bit harder to work on. But this does unscrew. The tweeter does not. So I would recommend putting the tweeter on first because it's easier to press it in if you have this standalone. And then attach it and then glue it. Or if you're going to test it, you want to plug the red wire into the plus side, and then the black or the neutral, the non-marked cable onto the negative side. And make sure it's pressed in nice and good like that. And you can just put this in any direction. Okay, so let's give this a test. To test, I like to, let's see, I'll have to grab my speaker. I've been propping it up a little bit because it likes to, the front comes off because it's not glued yet. So let's grab something random like this skull by Lantern Lore. Prop it up nice and neat like that. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe this box. There, perfect. Yeah, there will be full instructions for this, so this is a kind of a first look. So I'm gonna grab my amplifier, plug in your speaker before you turn on your amplifier, just in case. Most amplifiers are designed to be protected, but I built amplifiers that you need to have a speaker connected. Ideally, you'd have it connected on both sides, but I'm just using an SMSL A50 Pro. So let's turn this on and play music. Let's see. Let's try to find something that is stream, just in case it comes through. Whoops. Stream friendly, which is the music that I'm already listening to. How's that gonna work? Let's see. I could just play it, switch it to here. Sebas, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Let's see. This phone. Okay, now it is playing on my amplifier. So now I'm just going to turn up the audio a little bit. And listen. It sounds like speakers. That is correct. Yep. Sounds like it's supposed to. Awesome. So it works. Yay. Yeah, you probably can't hear it on stream, which is because of noise canceling, but it works. Both the tweeter and the woofer are making music. So now we can glue. And I need to turn back on my audio. My music, let's see. I'm gonna play on this computer. What do you guys think of the build so far? It's pretty smooth. Not really a lot of steps, and I'm kind of taking it slow. So if you take your time, you know, you can make it work out just nice. So I'm gonna remove the woofer, I'm gonna unplug it too, and now we're going to glue it. Unplugging will just make it easier to work with. So like I said before, just a little bit of, actually, probably just do like this. So what I've done is just dangle this out to the side. I put a little bit of glue on the inside ring of here. That was enough. Yeah, this is very red. This is a Polymaker Wine Red PLA. So I'm kind of going to take my gloop and just kind of Make sure there's not a lot on here, and then just paint it on to the ring here. Avoid getting it on your hands. Make sure it's not dripping everywhere before you get on your speaker, and try to focus on the inside of here. Get around all of this and try to get the whole thing nice and glooped. Take your time here. It does instruct you to shake the bottle before use. I've just used this, so it should be fine. Read the instructions before using any adhesive. So get a nice little bit on here, brush it around, and then reasonably quickly put the cap back on the PLA loop, and then glue this into place. So to glue this, you will press it. So, and since we don't have that front voron, we can actually turn it upside down like that and press it. And you know, just relax. Ideally, you'd want to let this dry for about 24 hours, but after a few seconds of gluing, it's pretty good to start using. Just, you know, your mileage may vary. The full speaker will cure over about 24 hours, I believe. Make sure your gloop is screwed back on, because you don't want to spill that. If you're using CA glue, similar process, just put glue around it and then just clamp it. The CA glue might take longer to harden, so either leave it like this with some weight on it or clamp it, whatever is best. If you do clamp this, be careful not to scratch this front surface, because that is the front of your speaker now. So now that the gluing is done, very simple, just a little bit of glue or gloop, we're going to attach our woofer. So this woofer comes with a little foam gasket. So depending on what you get, might have one, might not, but there's a gasket on here. This one's kind of already on the speaker, but it's not aligned correctly. So what you can do is take your little foam gasket and line it up over here. That'll help make an extra bit of seal. Then take your connectors, connect to the speaker, making sure to pay attention to the polarity. Let's see. So negative here, or sorry, positive on that side and negative on that side. Perfect. And then I'm just going to align it so these screws all line up. Kind of like that. Take my screws and screw it in. The sound plane reverse, the polarity is backwards. If the polarity is backwards, then it'll be out of phase and it'll sound really weird. So if your speakers sound weird, you'll want to check your the way that you've attached your speakers, making sure you've also attached the high pass to the tweeter and the low pass to the woofer. You know, make sure everything's connected correctly. That is not the right size screwdriver. You need a smaller one. So find the little heat set hole and screw it in. There we go. Just in general, be careful about the domes of the speakers. You don't want to press them. You don't want to touch them with your hands. Just try to avoid them best as possible, especially the tweeter. We're almost done here. So if you're going to build one of these, take a couple hours, dedicate it to building some nice speakers. The process is very similar to the other speakers. So if you're interested in building the FDM5s or the FDM Geos, those are also available on Deposition. Deposition Sounds website. Let's see, that's in correctly. I think we're almost done here. If you're watching on Twitch, I have a special promo code for you guys. Bang sound in chat. You like the angular design, the geos more, but these are cute. Yeah, these are really cool. They're cool because of how small they are, honestly, compared to the much larger FDM5s. Like it's jarringly smaller. But because of that special port, it still maintains a lot of bass. It's pretty cool. So these are each screwed in, nice and snug. You don't want to over tighten it, but just make sure they're all screwed in finger tight. And then that's it. Nope. Can't forget this. You could leave it at this point, but there is a beauty ring. So just another fair reminder that this is a semi-permanent installation. You could probably pry it out, but once this goes in, it is in. So make sure that it looks pretty. This is your last chance to inspect any imperfections on the first layer, in case you have to reprint it. So what you'll do is take the slots and line them up so they're over the screws. Pick one screw to start with, and then press it in like this. And you kind of have to like bend it. It's kind of hard to explain and probably even harder to show, but you'll want to slowly kind of bend it into place. Like that. So we're going to keep pressing it like that, and it'll eventually snap into place. Perfect, just like that. Nice and flush. That's not going anywhere. And the last step is the feet. So you could have put these on earlier, but I saved it for last. This has 3 feet. You'll have some extras in case you mess up for this one. So 1, 2, they go right in the little slot here. 3. Look at that. And now, you are the proud new owner of your Deposition Sound FDM4s. What do you think? They good? Do they look great? These are codenamed Red Velvet. They look like red velvet cake. And yeah, I had a really fun time building and printing these. I printed out everything on my Bamboo X1 Carbon and a couple pieces on the Mini. I strongly recommend picking up a Bamboo if you are looking at printing something like this in extremely high quality. The Bamboo Lab A1, the full-size A1 should be perfect for this type of build in either PETG or PLA. I'll have a link to Bamboo's printers in the video description if you want to pick one up. And also, you'll need filament. So Polymaker has a ton of filament. I chose red, wine red for these, but you can use one of their Starlights, one of the Galaxy Dark Blue. The options for colors are overwhelming, honestly. So get some ideas of what you want for colors. Understand that there's going to be an accent color in the front here, and have fun. That's the idea. So for more information on these, make sure to check out Deposition Sound's website. I'll have that in the video description. If you'd like to see more content like this, maybe even building another pair of these speakers. If you enjoyed this build guide and want a build guide on like the FDM5s or Geos, let me know. Or maybe some other 3D printed projects. I'll have a Stealth Press 0 to build pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that on the channel. This has been Hedgehog Makes. Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more content, and leave a comment down below what you think about these and if you're going to pick one up. You can tag me on social media when you print yours. all the steps. I love seeing the print in progress, maybe even some assembly pictures. Just tag me. I'm a Zombie Hedgehog on most platforms. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night, good morning, good evening, and goodbye.